What's up, guys? Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com, back with another SketchUp extension tutorial for you. So I'm kind of continuing with my focus on combining extensions in SketchUp. So today we're just going to combine TIG's Extrude tools along with joint push-pull and also quad face tools, kind of see what we can create. What I've really been trying to push is if you take extensions and you combine them, you can do crazy cool things. Today's video is brought to you by my supporters on Patreon. Patreon, as most of you know, is the website where you can support creators that you like on YouTube. So if you like what I'm doing in this channel, please consider supporting the show in the notes down below. Now let's go ahead and just jump into it. So I'm going to start off by saying I really don't know what this shape is going to end up looking like, but what I really want you to focus on is the way that the extensions are going to work together. And so what I'm going to start off doing is I've drawn an arc that's just kind of standing up, and I'm just going to make a couple copies of that using the Move tool in copy mode. So I just use the Move tool by tapping the M key, clicking on the corner, and then tapping the Control key in order to create my first copy. Then I'm going to type in something like ×4 and hit the Enter key. So what that does is that just creates a series of arcs within my model. And now I'm just going to use the Scale tool to kind of scale these up and down and in and out, just to make a little bit of a different shape. So something that looks a little bit different. And then so we've got our series of arcs, and what we want to do is we want to create a shape across these. And there's two ways that I would do this. The first is by using Curveloft and the lofting options there, or by using TIG's Extrusion Tools. In this case, we're going to use TIG's Extrusion Tools in order to do this. So the way that works is there's a button in here for Extrude Edges by Loft. And basically what that means is you activate the tool, you click on a series of edges, and then you hit the Enter key, and it's going to ask you how many segments per section. That's basically asking you how many segments you want this broken up into. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 12, and I'm going to click OK. What that's going to do is that's going to create a face using those edges. It's going to ask if I want to reverse the faces, and the answer is no. And then it's going to ask if I want these to be quad faces, and I'm going to say yes. And basically what that's going to do is that's going to hide the diagonal lines in each one of these faces. And then I'm going to say no for erase my 5 original curves because I might want those. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag this off to the side so that I can actually work with it. And again, like I said, I'm going to keep these for right now just in case I need them. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start messing around with the hidden geometry in this object to see what we can create. And so the first thing I'm going to do is right now this is broken up into a whole bunch of individual faces, and I can't do anything with them right now. I mean, you could push-pull each one of these faces individually, and in fact you can't even do that because these faces are actually, if you turn on your hidden geometry, these are split up into triangular faces. So each one of these quad faces is actually like a pseudo quad, meaning that it's broken up into 2 triangles. So we can't do anything with these the way that they are, so we're going to start off and we're just going to soften and smooth all these edges. And we're going to use the Soften Edges tool in order to do that. So basically you just select your object, and you just move the slider until all of your edges get hidden, and some of them may show up no matter where you move your slider. So if that's the case, check the box for Soften Coplanar, and they should get softened. And so you can see what this does is this leaves us with this smooth shape. This face is in here as an actual like smooth single shape. And so if we wanted to, we could start off and we could use the extension joint push-pull in order to give this a little bit of thickness, and in fact we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to select this first option for just joint push-pull, and I can just click on this face by single clicking, and then I can move my mouse out in order to make this thicker. And then I'm going to go ahead and click. And you may have to mess around with some of these settings a little bit. Make sure you leave it on the thicken setting right here, and you can also select this option to generate that as a group. But you can see how what that allows us to do is that actually allows us to create kind of a thickened shape. And so that's great. That allows us to thicken this shape, but now I want to go a little bit deeper. And the way I want to go a little bit deeper is I want to start breaking this up into individual faces that I can then use joint push-pull on in order to extrude out. And so you could come in, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to mess around with our hidden geometry. So we're going to go to View and turn Hidden Geometry on. Now if you wanted to, you could come in here and you could start selecting edges individually like this. You could click all around in your model and just click on all these different edges. You can see how these are hidden or softened because they're dotted, you could uncheck the box in the entity info for soften and smooth, and then turn your hidden geometry off, and you'll see how now this is split up into two faces because I unsoftened and unsmoothed the edges between them. So you could do that, but that's going to take a long time, and the reason that's going to take a long time is because you have to click on every one of those edges individually. Well, if you remember, back before when we did this, this asked if we wanted to create our geometry as quads, and when we said yes, that basically came in here and created all these faces as these like squares, so these four-sided shapes. And in SketchUp, quads get a little complicated, but it kind of views these as quads the way that they're broken up. So even though they have a triangular edge across the face, this is still viewed as a quad in SketchUp. Well, what that does is that allows us to use a tool from Thom Thom called Quad Face Tools. Quad Face Tools is designed specifically for working with this quad geometry, or this geometry with four sides. And quad geometry is generally looked at as being a better way to model because it's more predictable, meaning you can write better tools for it. Well, in this case, what that means is there's tools in Quad Face Tools like this one, which is Select Loop. And what Select Loop does is that allows me to basically select all the edges connected to this one that would be considered a part of this loop. So what it does is it makes selecting objects in your model a lot easier. So instead of me having to come in here and shift click and do each one of these individually, I can just click on this edge, click the button for Select Loop, and you can see how I get that whole edge. And then I can come in here and I can unsoften and unsmooth that one as well. So if I turn my hidden geometry off, you can see how it was really easy for me to break this up into these two different edges. And so now what we're going to do is let's go through and let's do that a couple more times, or maybe just one more time over here. So we'll go to View, Hidden Geometry, and I'm just going to select one of these edges and click the button for Select Loop. And then I can uncheck the box for Soften and Smooth. And one thing to note is if you wanted to select something along the long axis of this as well, like the longer direction, you could also do the same thing there. You can see how Select Loop will bring you a loop. There's actually a couple other tools in here as well, like Select Ring. What that'll do is that'll let you kind of split these out individually. We don't really want that for right now. For right now, I just want to select this loop again. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unsoften and unsmooth that one as well. So now if I turn my hidden geometry off, you can see how I was able to break this up into different faces. And so there's a few things we could do with this. In this case, I just want to use joint push pull in order to basically make this more of a unique shape. You could also come in here and select your edges and use like pipe along path or something to create more of a framework. In this case, we're just going to play around with joint push pull. And so what joint push pull allow us to do is there's actually an option here for vector push pull, which I think is what I want to use in this case. You could use the regular joint push pull, and in fact, let's just do a little bit of both. So this is what the regular joint push pull would do. It kind of is push pulling everything out. And what I don't like about this is this actually push-pulled this down a little bit as well. And what I want to do is I just want to extrude this straight up. And so in order to do that, I'm going to select this option for vector push-pull, which is the green option. And I can just single click on this and I can extrude this straight up and down. And if you remember, joint push-pull kind of works the same way as the other tools in SketchUp where it has a memory. So if I was to run vector push pull again and double click, this would allow me to basically push pull this up the same length as before. So you can see how I can do that on these really easily. And so based on this, you could do some other interesting things too. Like let's say, for example, you wanted to add some stripes on some of these edges. You could do that just by coming in here, turning on your hidden geometry, and using the Select Loop option in order to select all of these loops. And then you could just unsoften and unsmooth those. And then if I wanted to, I could use vector push pull to push pull that up in order to create even more kind of articulation on this shape. But you can see how by combining these extensions, being able to come in here and do something like this is really easy. And even if I wanted to, I could probably come in here and I could, if I deselected these, I could actually hide my shape down below. And we'll go ahead and hide this one too. But you can see how you could create kind of crazy structures and other things like that as well. So the idea of this video isn't to show you how to create a particular shape as much as it is just to show you the power of combining extensions. From there, I'd love to hear from you guys on what you think we could make using these different tools. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new SketchUp content every week. If you like what I'm doing on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Every little bit helps, even if it's only $1 a month. So make sure you check out that link in the notes down below. But in any case, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.